So today we are here with my very good friend and colleague, Lana Epstein, who is a social worker based in New York, who has been in the trauma field for as long as I have. Um, Certified in clinical hypnosis, EMDR, sensorimotor psychotherapy, bringing all the interesting and useful tools to this endeavor. And it has been a great pleasure to to work and be great friends with Lana. And it's wonderful to be able to share this conversation with you all.
Thank you so much, Janina. It's great to be here with you.
We met as fellow board members of the New England Society for the Treatment of Trauma and Dissociation.
Right. That's where we met. And then you invited me to think about, remember, coming into the trauma center.
Oh, right, right, where we were both supervisors at Bessel's Trauma Center. And then Bessel asked us to teach a workshop together at his conference on dissociation, which was a very big deal because dissociation, it's still to this day, it's, a controversial topic.
But not the way it was then,
But
right?
not,
There's
not
somebody saying every once in a while an exotic bird flies over the horizon, right?
And
That's
then
kind
I remember there were years where I sent every client of mine or everybody who came to me looking for a therapist to help them do the last bits, whatever it was that they hadn't completed. And these are often wonderful people who had done years of therapy, and they were still missing that last piece, and that somehow you were able to address, and they would thank me for years afterward.
And I don't know if you remember this, but I would send to you people who needed resources built
Right,
because I was so bad at that and you were so great.
right. Since my favorite stage of treatment is stabilization, it worked out very well.
I remember. And then you asked me to think about learning sensorimotor psychotherapy.
Right.
I don't remember whether you were the one who suggested EMDR as well, or whether it was Bessel.
That was probably Bessel. I mean, that's why I got EMDR trained because he told me to go get EMDR training.
Yeah, it was Bessel. But I remember saying to you one time over lunch, you know what, Janina, you have done more for me than all of my best friends. I think we should become friends.
And I actually thought we already were.
Well, I wanted to make it official.
Yes, right, right, right. And then you got it particularly interested in the attachment piece.
Well, I like both. I actually like both pieces. From sensory motor, what I learned to do was separate things that really aren't separatable and think about attachment as separate because the interventions are different than trauma. But I like both.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right, right. And what are you teaching now? Are you teaching? I think of you as teaching about attachment trauma using your combination of EMDR and sensory motor.
Yeah. So that is what I teach is actually working with traumatic activation using not just bilateral stimulation, which I love EMDR, but also bringing the body in. Um, to me, it's kind of the sum is bigger, the whole is bigger than the sum of the parts.
Right.
So I love actually adding the bilateral stimulation to EMDR work. And then I also like very much working with what I think more as attachment wounds. Yeah.
Right. And so for for our listeners who don't necessarily think in terms of attachment wounds, um, what are some of the attachment wounds you work with?
So once people have really processed a lot of the trauma and they're ready to really do more developmental work, that work is more, in a way, more about sense of self, more about the beliefs that people end up with, not necessarily beliefs having to do with safety or
Right.
responsibility, even or choice, but beliefs about, I'm not worthwhile or I'm helpless, beliefs that come from really not getting the right kind of stimulation or the right kind of attachment juice when
Right.
when they're really very young.
Right. Right.
So not necessarily life-threatening, not necessarily a threat to the body, but painful just the same.
Right. Like like painful loneliness, um,
Exactly.
feeling whether people have um, people in their lives or not, they feel alone
That's right.
and they feel uncared for.
Exactly. Exactly. And when we learn these things about ourselves before we even acquire language, right? So very, very young. And those beliefs stay with us really and really inform our teenage and adult relationships.
Right.
Right? Carry them unless something happens, we carry them with us our whole lives.
Right. Right. And I'm thinking now, here's one. I'm thinking of a client of mine who, where the attachment and the trauma seem so hard to tease out. Um, she she has a heart that closes each time. So she yearns to be loved,
Mm.
but each time somebody is positive toward her, who, validating, loving, um, her heart area closes up. And she's kind of armors. And it's really a terrible problem because she can't express love and she can't receive it.
Yeah. And I mean, that again, we're talking about teasing out things, separating things that really are not separatable, right? And her trauma experiences and her attachment experiences are both held in the same part of the brain, right? So it's very complicated to try and work with one and not the other. But what I would want to do with her, I'm sure you've done, is really first to work with as much trauma processing as I could, and then to move towards some kind of attachment work um, that's very small. Like, can she, and using I use a number of different modalities, but primarily sensorimotor psychotherapy and bilateral stimulation, EMDR, bilateral stimulation, some IFS, some TIST, but some hypnosis even, but mostly it's EMDR and SP. And sensorimotor psychotherapy uses kind of somatic interventions. So what I might do with her And maybe I would have to turn around so that I wasn't looking at her when I did it, depending on, but I might ask her, you know, if she could, to just as much as she could, kind of reach her hand toward me and just notice what happens. It would be very small.
Right.
Eventually, what I'd want, and depending upon whether a touch was really appropriate for her or not, but I'd want somehow, maybe I would use a pillow and say, you know what, this is the relationship between us. And can you reach for the pillow? And I'm going to actually move it toward you. And all the while, I would be using bilateral stimulation as we did that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So it's
Because I could see her moving back from the pillow.
right. And that's great because that's just information. That just, I would say to her, that's perfect. You know exactly what you need to do. That's really great. And, we might try it again sometime and you might maybe you could move just a half inch toward the pillow and see what that's like. So
Right.
chunk it down a little bit.
Absolutely. So that seems like a very important part of sensory motor psychotherapy is the chunking it down.
Yes. Yeah, to make it, a really big part is just to sort of co-create with your client something because we don't always know what we're doing, right?
Really?
At least I don't always know what I'm doing. And so,
Of course, we don't say it out loud very often, but it's true.
so that I could tell you a story that, from when I was a young person that actually started to lead me on this path. But
Oh,
anyway, um, and so what you want is to co-create something with your client that will unveil for them what they're doing and how they're holding out what they really want. So the story I will tell you that I sometimes tell people is that when I lived in Northern California when I was in my 20s, and I took part in a therapy group that was very experiential. And once, I don't know if I ever told you this, Janina,
no.
but once a week, we would get together and one person would be on, and that person would tell the story of their life. And by the end of the evening, that person would be on the floor sobbing.
Right.
Right. And so when it was my turn, I told the story of my life, and as luck would have it, I was on the floor sobbing. And I was sobbing all about how alone I was and how there was nobody there, right? And I was really, and
Really?
Victor, the leader, said, I'm now on the floor sobbing, with my face down sobbing. And Victor says, Lana's really having such a hard time. I want everybody to gather around her, just sit in a circle around her, and everybody touch her in a different place and send her love. And I bolted upright and said, don't even think about it. So I've had a lot of therapy. I remember 2 sessions, and that's one of them, right? Because that showed me without him, if he had said to me, you keep out what you want, I would have said, yes, I know.
Right.
This was so shocking because it unveiled for me. I mean, showed me what I was doing.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And that's the kind of experience that I think lends itself to memory reconsolidation,
Right.
right? Which is really what we're after.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a big memory reconsolidation fan. So tell our listeners a little bit about memory reconsolidation.
So what I like to think that we're doing with TIST and with, SP and with bilateral stimulation, with many of the experiential, mostly mindfulness-based therapies, the COMI. I like to think what we're doing is changing not the memory. You can't change the memory, but what you can change is the way the memory is held. So you can change the emotional balance of these memories. Usually they're early kind of right brain memories that really inform, especially the way we're in relationship. That can change. And the process of change is called memory reconsolidation. And basically, we've been doing this for a long time, but in 2012, Bruce Ecker and his colleagues put a book out called, I think, Transforming the Emotional Brain. I think that's what it was called. And it was such a wonderful thing to read because it gave some scientific basis to what we were already doing. It was like, oh, yes, this is really great.
Oh, you like that?
Yeah. And basically what he said is it's been around, has been around since the 80s. It's something known to science. People do rat experiments, etc., changing the balance of memories. And with humans, what Bruce Ecker did was translate that literature, that research, because I think he had a research background, translated that research into language that therapists could use in their offices. And what he said was there are some simple rules to changing the emotional balance of a memory. What you want to do is reactivate the memory. You want to bring it up in a very state-specific way. In other words, you want as close to the initial state as a person was when the thing happened. So you bring it up, you activate it, and then he does this cognitively. You find a way to challenge it, to mismatch it. You do some, I think you do something somatically, but he will work cognitively to challenge the belief that went along with that memory network, right? So that he'll challenge the cognition, I'll always be alone, or nobody will ever love me, or whatever it is that the person learned from that experience. I like to do that somatically, and also use bilateral stimulation, which I usually use sounds while this is going on. And when that mismatch happens, the person, so say it's I'll always be alone, and you're in a mindful state, we're working together. I'm working with the child part of you, and I'm asking you to witness while the bilateral stimulation is going on, witness what happens to that child. And I'm asking the child if she might reach out to me. And I tell that child I'm going to reach back. And usually, if it's the right experiment, the person will not be able to do it easily. Because if they could have done it easily, they would have done it when they were children.
Already.
Right. So, but eventually they will do it. And they can't hold both I'll always be alone and the fact that somebody's really with them right now. So that's the mismatch. And then what you do,
He calls it the disconfirming experience.
oh, is that what he calls it?
Disconfirming experience is I'm not alone.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then what you do is integrate the new experience.
Right, right. Yes. And that in TIST, we use that memory reconsolidation approach. And it's so amazing.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's so wonderful that it's backed by science.
Yeah, that's always a good thing too. It's not just some idea that the therapist has made up.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it sounds like wonderful work.
I've really enjoyed it. It's been wonderful. You know, it's just wonderful to see people kind of claiming their lives.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And by claiming themselves. Um, and tell us where you're teaching this.
Oh, well, I teach all over the place. I am this summer. My favorite place to teach is Cape Cod Institute, and I'll be there in July, um, July 14th to 18th this summer. It's the place that I love best to teach.
Yeah, me too. It's wonderful. And I call it summer camp for grown-ups. It's you, you go to the beach, you take a class from 9 to 12:30, and then you just vacation. And
Yeah, and the
you
people,
have such a chance to deepen the experience.
yeah, yeah.
And so how do people follow you? Do you have a website? Do they get on a mailing list?
Um, I'm really bad about all those things. So they don't follow me. I don't have a website, and I try to have a mailing list. So if people email me, I will put them on a mailing list. But marketing isn't my strong suit.
I'm just trying to figure out how people who would want to find out more could find you. But actually, they can email me, and
Or they can email me. Um,
we'll provide Lana's contact information. No website.
no website. I'm thinking about it, but I have no website, no.
Yeah, for those of you listening who are low-tech therapists, you have found a kindred spirit.
I don't even know if I'm low tech. I just never get around to things.
I love it. Amazing.
But
And
you have my email address, and yeah, it's
um,
basically my name.
so is because people are going to see this after Cape Cod, are there any plans to do your workshop anywhere else later in
I have really pulled back but I may, and if I do, I'll let you know, but I've actually I have a hard time pulling back from the Cape Cod
right?
because so,
Who can do?
but I I was doing it at ICP in New York. I was doing a year long, um, basically 40 hours, and I may do that independently, something like that next year. But I have actually pulled back from any other kind of presentation.
Right.
I'm trying to wind down a little bit.
Yes. It's hard to do, but yes, it's been made easier for you by life.
Yes, so I will show you something about how to, and so I will introduce this person, Carol, who actually discovered something about herself that she had never told anybody before. Um, I know I started using bilateral stimulation, tapping on her knees, I think. Um, really, as I was gathering information, so even before we started processing, I started using the bilateral stimulation because she she had the kind of personality that went in a lot of different directions. And I found that the bilateral stimulation actually sometimes helps people settle in. So I think you'll see me actually not just doing a sensory motor interweave, but also using. So, all right. So this is Carol, and I'm just going to show you how we came to find the negative belief, the negative cognition. Right? So you can see this well, right?
But I'll give you I have a sense of something. I don't know specifically what it is.
Okay.
But I'll give you the experience I had, which makes me feel like there's something sort of deeper inside.
Okay.
That's just sort of sitting there.
Yeah.
That despite all of my work on myself, I haven't quite delved into, I think, in the way that I need to. So I was in a yoga class, and just being with myself and breathing and my breath, and I started to get very emotional. Anytime I stop being, out here and crazy focused on learning something or figuring something out or doing something and just get quiet and go in, there's an emotional feeling. It feels very huge, and I don't want to stay with it. There's just a sense of something deep inside that's not okay.
That's not okay. And it feels like you get a tiny little bit emotional just
I do.
even saying that. Yeah.
Because right now I'm stopping and I'm paying attention, and that's exactly what happens. As long as I'm
busy. Yeah. Like busy talking, busy thinking, you're okay.
Yeah. So it's when I stop and I get quiet and I go in.
Okay. So let's start there and see where it takes us.
Okay.
I'm going to use tapping, as I said. And there's a lot of going inside and getting kind of quiet. So is that going to be okay for you, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's actually what I need to do. Left to my own devices, I'll go, but I'll leave.
Okay.
It's kind of like when you're in an exercise class and you're doing something and they push you that last 10 count, but if you weren't there, you wouldn't be doing it on your own.
That's right.
And I think I need to be pushed that last 10 count just to see what it is.
To see what it is,
Yeah.
But you do have a sense that it's old.
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
Okay.
I mean, even, I'm even starting to curl in,
Just even think about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
And
you can feel that in your body.
Absolutely.
You know what? Let's actually just stay with your body a minute here and see what comes up. Like we might even get the negative belief just by staying with your body. Does it sound
Okay.
Yeah. So feel that curling in, Carol. Feel yourself curling in, and if you could, make it a little bit stronger. And I'm going to come a little bit closer.
Okay.
And, just make it a little bit stronger. Yeah, not too strong, because you don't want to make it so big that you can't feel the signal anymore, but just a little bit stronger.
Okay.
Yeah. And then let it go. Yeah. And feel the difference. What do you notice?
I can breathe when I let it go.
You can breathe when you let it go.
Yeah, but it sort of drops me in a little more, and then I get
sad,
emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you mind doing it again?
Okay.
So just, again, make it a little bit bigger. Not too much, because you want to really be able to feel it without overriding it. So not like a caricature or anything, but just a little bit, yeah. And sadness comes,
Yeah.
and let it go. So sadness comes. Anything coming with the sadness?
It just feels very dark
Feels dark.
and empty, black.
It's black, like really, really black and dark and empty.
Yeah.
Would it be all right to do it again?
Yeah.
All right, so again, make it a little bit bigger. And if you need me to stop, you just tell me, okay? And just really feel that. Let your body really feel that curling in. And then if that curling in, if it had words, if it could tell you something about yourself or about the world, what would the words be? Like if your body could speak, what would it be saying with that curling in? Just let it come from you. Don't struggle.
Okay.
First thing that comes up.
I'm defective.
I'm defective. Wow,
Yeah.
I'm defective. You really believe that, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. The sense is to hide.
The sense is to hide.
Yeah, because my head wants to come down.
Your head wants to come down and to hide. So, Carol,
I truly believe this is how I existed for the first part of my life.
this is how you existed. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I need to ask you something, okay?
Uh-huh.
You know, really check inside with all parts of you.
Okay.
Would it be all right for us for the next hour or so work with that sense of I'm defective?
Yeah, I really want to.
You really want to? Okay.
So that was a shocking thing for me. I mean, I had no idea that she was holding that. And it's a little bit of a cliffhanger because she had a really good reason for thinking she was defective. But it really shocked me because it's just so lovely.
Right. But also, I also knew her as a student. So I know that she was so full of life and energy and ideas, and you wouldn't know there was this little curled up
Exactly.
child inside her
Mm,
feeling defective.
yeah.
And I want people to appreciate how simple and beautiful it is. Like it wasn't a whole, kind of tortured process to get
No,
right. You just asked her to stay with her body and you helped her by using your voice and your presence.
yes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I think we often forget about the power of our voices and our presence.
Right. And how important really to that kind of right brain resonance that
Mhm.
speaks, that actually speaks to the unconscious, that speaks to the implicit, right? That allows that part to come forward and say, okay, she told me in the session, I've never told anybody this,
Right,
right?
right, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank
Thank
you so much. And I have to say, it makes such a difference to show the video because it just brings to life the simplicity of what you're doing.
Right, exactly, because otherwise it's a lot of words. And I think it's really hard for people to imagine how simple it really is.
Right, right, right. And and as someone also trained in sensorimotor and EMDR, I really appreciate how you're using it. I mean, it's interesting because the EMDR is it's the background
Yes,
of the foreground.
that's right. That's right. Yes, I started to write something, and one of the reviewers said, this may be bilateral stimulation plus. And I said, actually, no, it's actually sensorimotor psychotherapy plus. Right.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, Lana, for doing this.
Oh, this has been such a delight, really.
Yeah, yeah. And, we've known each other, we've had a million conversations, and it's just really nice to share with everybody the experience of what you do and the value of it, and the value of combining modalities,
Yes.
not being afraid of the EMDR gods being angry at you or the sensory motor gods being angry with you.
Well, I won't say I wasn't afraid, but I did it anyway.
Right, right, exactly, exactly.
There is that, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Right, right.
So to thank you for this, really for this opportunity to be with you in a different kind of way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like
but it was fun, as it always is.
this.
Thank you, everybody, for being with us today, and to be continued.
Bye.
Bye.